Welcome to the House of David, Life Everlasting, a PBS television series that will chronicle the life and times of the House of David. We are so happy that you're with us, but before we move on, we have to tell you about our underwriters. Those are the folks that helped us bring you this presentation.
Telling incredible stories and keeping the past alive, Moondog Productions is proud to bring you the great history of the House of David in Southwest Michigan. Find out more about Moondog Productions by going online to moondogpro.net.
The House of David Museum is proud to tell the stories of Southwest Michigan's rich history. Located in St. Joseph, Michigan, the House of David Museum has a wide array of memorabilia for your viewing pleasure. To schedule a tour, call 269-325-0039.
Post-production facilities provided by True Blue Farms in Grand Junction, Michigan. True Blue Farms has been contributing to the overall health and wellness to people all over the world for over 100 years with blueberries. Find out more at truebluefarms.com.
Telling Southwest Michigan's history through radio and podcast. Rob Bird's Moondog Show and the House of David podcast are happy to be a part of telling this great story. Find Rob Bird's Moondog Show or the House of David podcast at podbean.com.
Thank you for staying with us. I'm your host, Rob Bird. On this episode of House of David, Life Everlasting, we're going to be talking about the scandal that rocked Benton Harbor, West Michigan, and then reverberated around the world. This piece of the documentary film, House of David, Life Everlasting, will deal with the fallout and how it changed the House of David forever. Then my friend and co-host, Chris Siriano, is going to join me here in the studio to talk about this very sensitive issue. We'll see you very soon right back here in the studio on House of David, Life Everlasting. The House of David was in turmoil, and it was about to get worse.
Well, salacious accusations about Brother Benjamin and the House of David go back quite a ways, but it really came into focus in 1923 in the Hansel trial. It took place in Grand Rapids, incidentally. The Hansel family, a large family, had come to the House of David a few years earlier and then had become disgruntled and wanted to be paid for the time they spent at the House of David and wanted to have the value of what they had given to the House of David returned to them. And that kind of exploded and it resulted in this court case, as I say, took place in Grand Rapids. And during that particular proceedings, a civil action, there were things that weren't directly related that came up. There were testimony and affidavits that were given that alleged this happened and that happened.
Around 1920-21, the House of David and Benjamin Purnell were world-renowned. They were written about in every major media around the world, not just Michigan, not just America, but global. He definitely became a target for jealousy, for spite, for political reasons, because he held so much power and so much wealth. If he wanted to have somebody voted into office in Michigan, he for sure can do that. And how many people can do that? And today, probably nobody. Had mega wealth. I mean, had tens of millions back in 1920. 1922, the feds are after him. The sheriff's after him. The prosecuting attorney wants him because these Bamford sisters and these people, a lot of females are teaming up against Ben at that point, saying that he took privileges that he shouldn't have taken. And that's a whole nother story, but there was a lot of heat on Ben at that point. Not only that, he was, they accused him of operating a religion under false pretenses for personal gain, because he kind of lived like a king. Even though the media called him King Ben, you're supposed to call him Brother Ben. That was what he wanted to be called. But he was very, he lived a very royal life. And so he kind of put a target on his own head, I think. And they were after him hardcore. Well, he didn't know I don't think he could have realized, like, where's this all going to take me? So he went into hiding, and he avoided capture for 4 years. And they searched the world for him. There was advertisements and search teams and warrants for his arrest all over the whole planet. They thought he must have went to live in Kentucky. He must have be in the hills of Kentucky hiding. He must have went to Australia, where they own land in Australia. They must have went, The story really was that he was hiding in the Diamond House the whole time. And the Diamond House mansion was a 9,000 square foot mansion that he had built for himself. Rooms inside rooms and passageways and hidden vaults. And I restored that house top to bottom in 2004 with a team of 14 guys. It took us a whole year. It's mind-blowing. It's like the Winchester Mansion, like very mysterious, very like exits everywhere, right? So he had people, and history shows that he had connections at the sheriff's department. He had connections at the state police. He had connections at the federal level that would set the message to the House of David to get him out of the way. They're coming. The raids are coming or whatever. They even have colored lights on the top of Shiloh that the House of David members told me about that would say a certain color was warning, a certain color was it's safe, certain color was be on the lookout. And he could see those from Diamond House. So in reality, and I don't care what anybody tells you because I've interviewed the people for 30 years, and I restored the Diamond House mansion, and with the help of the guidance of some of the members that had been there forever, and they told me stories that people probably wouldn't admit if they were real alive today members. But he avoided capture for 4 years until finally his lady, his number one connection, invited the raid on a certain day at a certain time. She knew exactly where Ben was going to be, and they came in with giant ramming bars. And when we restored the Diamond House mansion, there was still pieces of the wood that were broke off the double doors at the entrance from the raid. So they did catch him in 1926. He had tuberculosis by then. He was dying, right? So they brought him to trial, and they had rape charges. They had fraud charges against him. It was the most sensationalized trial of the 20th century by far. And so he went to war against all these accusations. Judge Dewhurst did a phenomenal job. Ultimately, after all the testimony, after all the court documents, they couldn't prove that he did anything. They couldn't prove it. So he was acquitted of all these rape charges that came before him. But they found him guilty of operating a religion under false pretenses for personal gain, calling him a religious fraud. So he went home on his hospital bed. That's how he laid in the courtroom, is on a hospital bed. And so he went home awaiting sentencing, but before he could be sentenced, he died. He died of tuberculosis. And at that point, here's a guy that just recruited you from whatever part of the world you were from, doing whatever you were doing. Come here, join me. I'm going to teach you how to live forever. We're going to walk into paradise. He dies. He never taught it. He never said anything about dying. He never told anybody he was going to die. And so, mass pandemonium. They didn't know what to believe, what to do.
They were obviously very upset, mourning his passing, and he passed on a Friday, on December 16th. And they didn't let anyone know that he had passed away until the following Monday.
They kept Benjamin wrapped in damp, warm towels and cloth for 8 days. At that point, the Barron County coroner and the authorities came in and said, "You have to do something with his body." And so they embalmed his body and put him in a hermetically sealed glass coffin, like linen, over the Russian emperor, and he's still there to this day.
With the death of Benjamin, a power struggle has taken hold. As with most deaths of a leader, the question of who will take over is always the top concern. This wasn't any different for the House of David.
When Ben died, Mary, his wife, rightfully should have been able to take over the whole thing. She was there from before he got here. She was there putting his words into ink form. She was there by his side the whole entire way. She knew as much about the faith as he did, because he taught her from the time she was 16. So the rightful person that should have taken over was her, and she wanted to. But the Judge Dewhurst had other ideas.
It's curious that the House of David, they had lost membership during the 20s during all this turmoil in the trial. They had been a membership of over 1,000 at one time. But they were down, to less than 500. They divided 215 with Mary and 214 with Dewhurst.
He told the people, and I'm sure he had done all the legwork before knowing the writing on the wall, and a very, very, very smart guy, very savvy guy. And he said, no. A woman is not the head of this household. The Bible says the man is the head of the household. And people loved Dewhurst. They knew how powerful he was. They knew he had gotten Benjamin acquitted.
Sister Mary and her followers retained a great deal of the agricultural land and those kinds of farms and that sort of thing. They didn't keep High Island, which most of the people who left High Island actually followed Sister Mary. So it was kind of a surprise that they wouldn't have gotten that, but that stayed with Dewhurst, but it really was a losing proposition by that time.
So he went to trial and sued Mary for the leadership. And that trial went all the way to the Michigan Supreme Court. He won. And so sadly, Mary was evicted.
Kicked out of her own home, Mary didn't go too far. With some of the House of David holdings she retained, she started Mary's City of David just down the street.
They said, we're gonna leave, we're leaving. If Mary's leaving, we're leaving with you. With that group went a lot of the really genius minds and some of the greatest baseball players and a lot of the devout followers. And so the court said, Mary, you have to leave, but you can have the Rocky Weed Farm, which was a farm in Bering Springs. You can have the House of David Hotel, which he immediately changed the name to Mary's City of David Hotel, Mary's Fireproof Hotel. You can have this property, you can have this farm, and you can have half of the holdings in the bank. Well, imagine that those tens of millions now are like 160,000 in the bank. So she got like 80-some thousand to walk. And she walked across the street and down the road about 1,000 feet and started the Israelite House of David as reorganized by Mary Purnell, which later became Mary's City of David. And they were very successful. They had their own print shop, they had their own bakery, they had their own baseball team. She had her own Shiloh. She built cabins for the members in a big amphitheater, and they had their own band.
Dewhurst, of course, and his followers retained the Eden Springs Park. That was the big thing, and they had most all of the musicians, and of course the big major buildings there, the Shiloh, the Bethlehem, the Jerusalem, the Diamond House, and all of that kind of thing. That stayed with them, and it's not going to be long after that they're going to start expanding.
Dewhurst went on to major money enterprises and kind of expanded out west with some things that maybe he shouldn't have done. But he grew the money, but I think that's when the faith stopped. The faith recruiting stopped. They didn't preach anymore at the House of David. That was kind of when the music of the religion stopped, was when Dewhurst took over.
With the bedrock of the religion deteriorating, the House of David moved on more like a business, a corporation, so to speak. Even during this time of turmoil, the House of David and Mary's City of David continued to excel.
And those members continued to believe what they were taught by Ben, and they continued to play baseball better than anybody in America for a long time. They continued the amusement park through the early 70s. But when Dewhurst died in 1947, 20 years after Ben, they stopped taking new members. So the last member, Willie Robertson, joined in 1947 from Scotland. After that, that was it. So the last member that joined was also the last member that died, which is, what's the chance of that, right? So 70 years later. So there's no House of David original members left. There's a couple guys that were helping out there. One was a caregiver and one was helping with the bookkeeping that now joined. And at the City of David, where Mary was, there's Ron Taylor is the last guy standing. So, and that division that was formed between Judge Dewhurst and Mary was like the Berlin Wall, the East and West Germany love-hate relationship, where one family's over there, one family's right there. Maybe a brother and sister on both sides. Maybe a husband went this way and a wife went this way. So there was major animosity, very, very, very bitter for decades. And it's sad.
Welcome back to the studio, House of David, Life Everlasting. You're watching some of that film. My good friend Chris Siriano, co-host here, and we were watching about the scandal, and the scandal really, it rocked Benton Harbor, and even to this day, I mean, how many years ago was that?
100.
100 years ago to this day, it's still a sensitive subject when it comes to the House of David. I guess tell me a little bit about that and what impact did that have on Benton Harbor at that time?
It had a huge impact. Just, the wheels were turning full speed ahead at the House of David Park and everything that had to do with the House of David enterprises and industries and, being such a gigantic player in Southwest Michigan. And then all of a sudden their leader was caught in a scandal or accused of the scandal. So it hit the major medias around the world, not only around America. So that shook the boat big time, and I think people maybe backed away a little bit, not knowing what to believe or who to believe, and so from there it just kind of got worse.
And that's the kind of thing that can taint a lifetime of doing good things, and then to have something like that dropped on you. It's still, when people say the House of David, that's something that typically their brain always goes to. And of course, there's a lot of good things, the amusement park, baseball, all those great things. But to still have that in the back of your mind it's hurtful to a lot of people still.
It is. And it's sad. After telling the story and having the museum for 30 years now and try to make it a beautiful story, because it was. I write all over the place on all different sites, and I still, to this day, constantly have people bring up the bad, the dirt, the questionable things, and there's nobody alive today that could say 100% whether Benjamin Purnell was innocent or guilty. So that makes it even tougher.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. There were certainly some instances that casted doubt upon that. In the amusement park, on the trains, he had his own car at the end that they called Ben's car. Right? It was called Ben's car, and oftentimes was seen with the young girls from the colony. And and when you start thinking of today's ideals of that, and those times were a little bit different, but when you think about today's ideals, that would certainly be like, that would cast some doubt.
It raised a red flag, and did, and still is a big point of controversy. There's a lot of beautiful young ladies at the colony, and whether they were part of a band or whether they were part of his little personal group, nobody knows. But it sure didn't look good. And he, the blacked out tinted windows on the passenger car in the back. According to Claire Adkin, he interviewed a lot of people back in the day when there was a lot of members alive and heirs to the members, and so it just leaves a big question mark.
Yeah, and a lot of people probably took that secret to their grave.
They so did.
If there was a secret to be had.
Right.
But so there was a trial. a huge trial, which was,
Huge.
I mean, it rocked the world, and certainly Benton Harbor in West Michigan.
It shared headlines around the world. Back at the time when the Lindbergh baby was kidnapped, House of David, Benjamin Purnell's trial and hearings were sharing headlines all over the planet. So that sure didn't leave any good note with Benton Harbor, of course. Put all of Southwest Michigan in a bad light. And the trial was a very sensationalized trial and went on for a long, long time. I had prosecuting attorney documents, 1,600 pages of documents of testimony from members and testimony from plaintiffs, and it was a tough situation.
Yeah. And really, when you saw as you saw in the documentary, he was in court really on his deathbed.
They hauled him to jail. When they arrested him, he was in a hospital bed in the Diamond House, being taken care of by one of the Boone ladies. And so, during the trial, all the newspaper accounts showed him in his hospital medical bed and with tuberculosis, and he died shortly after the trial ended.
I couldn't imagine how sensational it was. It's probably one of those ones that would equate to like an OJ trial. But the House was divided. What happened to the House of David and the members? How did they take all of this happening? Because he was found guilty on one charge, the lesser of charges. They never got a conviction on the more serious charges.
Correct. Yeah, he was acquitted of the rape charges, and he was found guilty of operating a religion under false pretenses for personal gain, because he kind of did live a bit of a royal life.
It looked like it. If you watched what we were just showing you in the pictures, the man looked good. He always had the suit on, and that was the same way it looks like a lot of the members. They lived a pretty good life.
They loved to dress to the nines, and it was called rowite back in the very beginning. Rowite, where they were all suits and ties and top hats and all that. And
some of that's changed these days. We just don't see people dressed like that anymore. Seems like maybe if they would, our world would go maybe back to a little kinder, gentler place if we all dressed up a little bit better.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
But so the trial ended, and before they could sentence him for what he was found guilty of, operating religion part, he died of tuberculosis. And so that was mass pandemonium, because here's a guy that taught you that you're going to live forever. You're going to have a life, eternal life of the body. And that's why they came and joined, because his promise of everlasting life. So there was a big division there at the colony, because his wife wanted to take over the leadership after he died, and rightfully she probably should have been able to. But because the Supreme Court judge, Harry T. Dewhurst, that defended Ben during those trials, he knew the state law so well. And he wanted to be the leader. And
so I was wondering how he knew our state law so well, being that he was a California Supreme Court justice, it seems like. But I'm sure probably a lot of that law is pretty close, and you just have to read up on it. And any smart lawyer will know what statutes to look up. And, he obviously did a wonderful job for Ben. Really, I wonder, knowing if that, when this is all said and done, we can obviously tell he's not going to make it. I am going to be in charge. Was that part of his maybe fervor to make sure Ben was found not guilty?
I'm quite sure. Yeah. He came in 1918 from California, so he had 8 years to study and prepare, and the fact that the history shows that he was quite everything was lined up and in his favor and purposely. So
and that's what happens when you are the guy who probably had a lot of look at the books and were privy to everything. You get yourself lined up, because when you look at it back then, it was millions and millions of dollars and these opulent mansions and power,
big time power. Yeah, and he was their leader, their business head of business, orchestrated everything, all the money, all the enterprises. So. it was very, very convenient and smooth for him to step right into that role.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, we've actually come to the end of our time. It happens quick, especially when you're talking about the House of David. There's so much to talk about. But next week is going to be our last episode of the series, and we're going to be talking about where is the House of David today. So we'll probably pick up a little bit on when Judge Dewhurst took over to where we are right now and the state of the amusement park, the state of the House of David. So thank you for joining with us. We'll see you next time on the House of David, Life Everlasting.
Telling incredible stories and keeping the past alive, Moondog Productions is proud to bring you the great history of the House of David in Southwest Michigan. Find out more about Moondog Productions by going online to moondogpro.net.
The House of David Museum is proud to tell the stories of Southwest Michigan's rich history. Located in St. Joseph, Michigan, the House of David Museum has a wide array of memorabilia for your viewing pleasure. To schedule a tour, call 269-325-0039.
Post-production facilities provided by True Blue Farms in Grand Junction, Michigan. True Blue Farms has been contributing to the overall health and wellness to people all over the world for over 100 years with blueberries. Find out more at truebluefarms.com.
Telling Southwest Michigan's history through radio and podcast. Rob Byrd's Moondog Show and the House of David podcast are happy to be a part of telling this great story. Find Rob Byrd's Moondog Show or the House of David podcast at podbean.com.